The unbreakable spirit. Warlord Rax Full stood motionless at the viewport of his flagship, the inevitable conquest. His massive frame cast an elongated shadow across the polished obsidian floor of the command bridge. 7 feet tall with armored exoskeletal plates reflecting the crimson emergency lights, he cut an imposing figure even among his own kind. The Draxian commander's 4 arms remained crossed over his torso, mandibles clicking softly as he considered the unexpected discovery. "Magnify," he ordered, his voice a deep rumble that resonated through the bridge. The view screen shifted, focusing on a small vessel drifting through the asteroid field at the edge of the Kelmar system. The ship was unlike any Rax Full had encountered in his 3 centuries of conquest. Sleek, with curved lines and a hull that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. No visible weapons, yet something about its design suggested efficiency and purpose. "Life signs?" Rax Full asked, not turning to face his crew. Science Officer Vexna approached cautiously, keeping her head lowered and secondary arms tucked close to her body. The proper posture of submission in the presence of a superior. "1, Commander. Faint but stable. The vessel appears to have sustained damage from the asteroid field. Its propulsion systems are offline. Species? Unknown, Commander. Not in our database." Rax Full's compound eyes narrowed, each facet reflecting a different angle of the mysterious ship. In 400 years of expanding the Draxian Empire across 3 galactic arms, they had cataloged over 60 sentient species. Each had been studied, evaluated, and, when necessary, subjugated. The discovery of something new was rare enough to pique his interest. "Bring it aboard," he ordered. "Containment protocols. Full armored escort. I want the occupant alive." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, their exoskeletons clicking softly as they operated their stations. Tractor beams engaged, gently pulling the small craft toward the enormous maw of the Draxian warship's hangar bay. Rax Full watched the operation from the central command platform, his primary arms resting on the railing while his secondary set operated the data terminal. The Draxian Empire had not become the dominant force in the sector through mercy. New species represented potential threats or potential vassals, rarely anything in between. "Docking complete," reported the operations officer. "Security teams are in position." "Show me," Rax Full commanded. The central display shifted to the hangar bay, where 20 elite Draxian warriors surrounded the small craft. Each stood nearly 8 feet tall, their natural armor enhanced with battle plating and energy shields. Plasma rifles hummed with barely contained power, all trained on the ship's primary hatch. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the hatch slid open with a soft hiss. A figure emerged slowly, bipedal, smaller than any adult Draxian, with only 2 arms and soft-looking skin. It wore a dark uniform with unfamiliar insignia and moved with a steady, deliberate pace. Most remarkable was what Rax Full didn't see: the typical stumbling, the widened eyes, the trembling limbs that characterized first contact with all other species. Every sentient race they had encountered responded biologically to the Draxians' natural fear pheromones, an evolutionary advantage that had served them well in their rise to dominance. Yet this creature showed none of these signs. "Bring the alien to interrogation chamber 1, Rax Full ordered, his interest fully captured now. "I will conduct this questioning personally." Lieutenant Maya Reeves sat calmly in the metal chair, her hands resting on the table before her. The room was deliberately designed to intimidate, cold, with harsh lighting and shadows that played across the walls. She had been waiting for 20 minutes, a psychological tactic she recognized from her military training. The door finally slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and the massive insectoid figure she had glimpsed in the hangar entered. Up close, he was even more imposing, carapace gleaming with a blue-black sheen, 4 powerful arms ending in hands with 3 razor-sharp digits each. His head featured compound eyes that seemed to evaluate her from multiple angles simultaneously. "I am Warlord Rax Full of the Draxian Empire," he announced, his words translated by an unseen device. His voice was deep and resonant, with harmonics that vibrated in Maya's chest. You are now aboard the Imperial warship Inevitable Conquest. Your vessel has been impounded, and you are currently the property of the Empire. Maya maintained eye contact, or what passed for it, with a being whose eyes contained thousands of tiny lenses. Lieutenant Maya Reeves, Earth Expansion Fleet, Science Vessel Horizon. Her voice remained steady, her posture relaxed yet alert. Rax Thull circled the table slowly, his secondary arms clasped behind his back, while his primary pair remained crossed over his chest. Your ship's technology is interesting. Primitive in some ways, surprisingly advanced in others. We're relatively new to deep space travel, Maya replied simply. The Draxian commander stopped circling and leaned down, bringing his face close to hers. His mandibles clicked softly, and Maya detected a faint musky scent. She recognized an intimidation tactic when she saw one and remained unmoved. You should be terrified, Rax Thull said, his tone genuinely puzzled. Yet your vital signs remain steady. Your pupils aren't dilated. Your skin moisture is normal. He straightened and tilted his head. Explain. Maya considered her response carefully. Her vessel had been on a routine survey mission when they'd encountered the spatial anomaly that had pulled them off course. The rest of the crew had evacuated in the emergency pods, but as science officer, she'd remained behind to ensure the ship's research data was secured. The damage to the propulsion system had left her stranded. Should I be afraid? She asked calmly. Rax Thull's mandibles clicked rapidly, what Maya guessed might be his species' equivalent of a surprised expression. Every sentient species we have encountered responds physiologically to our presence. It is biological, instinctual. Interesting, Maya replied, genuine curiosity in her voice. A natural evolutionary advantage, I assume. Pheromones, perhaps. The Draxian commander stared at her for a long moment, then abruptly pulled back a chair, a jarring motion that would have made most beings flinch. Maya remained still as he sat across from her, his massive frame dwarfing the furniture. You are correct, he finally said. Our species evolved as apex predators. The fear response is automatic in other sentient life forms. Yet you show no signs of it. Maya shrugged slightly. Humans evolved differently. We weren't always apex predators. For much of our history, we were prey animals. Prey. Rax Thull's antenna twitched in what might have been disbelief. Impossible. Prey species never achieve space travel. The psychological limitations are precisely what drove our advancement, Maya interrupted. When you're not naturally the strongest or fastest, you develop other advantages. Tools, technology, cooperation, strategic thinking. Rax Thull leaned forward, his interest clearly piqued. And fear. All prey species experience fear. It is a survival mechanism. Of course we feel fear, Maya acknowledged. But humans evolved to function despite it. Those who froze in terror died. Those who could think clearly even while afraid survived and passed on their genes. The Draxian commander was silent for a long moment, his compound eyes fixed on her. Then he rose suddenly, towering over the table. You will be taken to secure quarters. I have much to consider. As Rax Thull turned to leave, Maya spoke again. Commander, what happened to my ship? And the research data it contained. He paused at the door, not turning around. Your vessel is being studied. Your technology, while different, poses no threat to us. He glanced back. Yet, 3 days passed before Maya saw Rax Thull again. Her quarters were Spartan but not uncomfortable, a small room with basic amenities adapted awkwardly for her human form. She had been provided with nutrient supplements that their scans had determined would be non-toxic to her biology. When the door slid open, Rax Thull entered accompanied by a smaller Draxian, whose carapace displayed a more iridescent quality. This is Science Director Kazavel, Rax Thull introduced. She wishes to understand your species' neurological structure. The female Draxian, At least Maya assumed the gender assignment was accurate, approached with what appeared to be a handheld scanner. "With your permission," she said, her translated voice higher pitched than Raxfall's. Maya nodded, curious herself about what they might find. Casvel moved the device around Maya's head, occasionally making soft clicking sounds that weren't translated. "Fascinating," the scientist finally said. "Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, shows activity when exposed to our pheromones, but the connections to your motor control and autonomic nervous system have inhibitory pathways that are highly developed." In simpler terms, Raxfall added, "You feel fear, but it doesn't control you." Maya nodded. "That's essentially correct. Human history is filled with examples of people who performed incredible feats while terrified. We call it courage, acting despite fear, not in absence of it." Casvel continued scanning, utterly absorbed in the readings. "Commander, these neural pathways are unlike anything in our database. The complexity of the inhibitory connections suggests deliberate evolutionary pressure over thousands of generations. Our early ancestors lived in a world of constant threats," Maya explained. "Large predators, environmental dangers, rival tribes. Those who could think clearly while afraid survived to pass on their genes." Raxfall dismissed the scientist with a gesture and took her place, studying Maya with newfound intensity. "In all my centuries, I have never encountered a species immune to our greatest advantage. It disturbs me." "Why?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. The Draxian commander's mandibles clicked softly. "Because it suggests a fundamental flaw in our understanding of sentient evolution, and because it raises questions about what would happen if our empire encountered more of your kind." Maya considered this carefully. Her situation was precarious. A lone human in the hands of what was clearly an expansionist, militaristic empire. Yet diplomacy had always been a human strength. "Perhaps it offers an opportunity instead," she suggested. "Different evolutionary paths leading to different strengths. Complementary rather than competing." Raxfall made a sound the translator didn't convert, something between a hiss and a click. "You speak of cooperation when you are clearly our prisoner." "I speak of possibilities," Maya replied. "From what I've seen, your species values strength and dominance. Humans value innovation and adaptation. Both approaches have their advantages." The Draxian commander stood silent for a long moment, his compound eyes unreadable. Finally, he moved toward the door. "Tomorrow," he said, "you will accompany me to the command bridge. I wish to observe how you respond to a crisis situation." After he left, Maya sat back on her bunk, processing this development. The Draxians clearly relied on their fear-inducing biology as a cornerstone of their society and military strategy. Her immunity represented something they couldn't categorize, a potential threat or a valuable anomaly. Either way, it had earned her a reprieve from whatever fate usually awaited species that crossed paths with the Draxian Empire. The question was how to leverage this unexpected advantage, not just for her own survival, but potentially for humanity's future in a galaxy that suddenly seemed much more complex and dangerous than Earth had imagined. As she lay back on her bunk, Maya couldn't help but smile at the irony. The very quality that had defined humanity's rise on Earth, the ability to function despite fear, might now be their greatest asset among the stars. If she could survive long enough to report back, that is. The next day would bring new challenges, and perhaps opportunities. For now, Lieutenant Maya Reeves would rest, conserve her strength, and prepare for whatever tests the Draxian commander had planned. She wasn't afraid. Well, that wasn't entirely true. She was afraid. But as countless humans had demonstrated throughout history, fear was just another obstacle to overcome. The balance of power. Maya stood on the command bridge of the inevitable conquest, acutely aware of the stares from the Draxian crew. Their postures communicated a mixture of fascination and unease, mandibles clicking softly, secondary arms held unnaturally close to their bodies. Even without understanding their specific body language, she could feel the tension her presence created. Warlord Raxful occupied the central command platform, his massive frame silhouetted against the panoramic viewport that displayed the vastness of space. The bridge was an impressive display of technology. Console stations arranged in concentric circles, holographic displays floating at key positions, and lighting that seemed calibrated specifically for compound eyes. "Approach," Raxful ordered without turning. Maya walked forward confidently, ignoring the subtle shifts in posture from the bridge crew as she passed. She had been provided with a translator device that fit behind her ear, allowing her to understand the clicking and hissing that comprised the Draxian language. "You have been monitoring our systems," Raxful stated as she reached his side. It wasn't a question. Maya nodded, seeing no point in denial. "I'm a scientist. Observation is what I do." "And what have you observed?" She considered her answer carefully. "Your technology follows different principles than ours in some areas, particularly your propulsion systems and energy management. But your tactical displays and command structure are surprisingly similar." Raxful's compound eyes shifted toward her. "Similar to humanity's. Convergent development," Maya explained. "Different species often arrive at similar solutions when facing similar problems. Efficient command structures tend to follow certain patterns regardless of biology." Before Raxful could respond, an alert sounded across the bridge. A Draxian officer approached, head lowered deferentially. "Commander, we've received a distress signal from the Vexnar outpost in the Kelmar system." Raxful's mandibles clicked rapidly. The Vexnar. They are tribute-bound to the Empire. Who would dare attack them? "Unknown, Commander." The message was cut short. Raxful turned to Maya, his forearms crossed in what she had come to recognize as a contemplative posture. "The Vexnar are a vassal species. Their settlements produce rare minerals essential to our fleet operations." Maya understood the unspoken question. "And you're wondering if this is a convenient coincidence, my ship appearing just before one of your outposts comes under attack." The thought had occurred. "Earth doesn't even know this sector exists," Maya said honestly. "The anomaly that brought my ship here was unexpected. We have no quarrel with your empire or its vassals." Raxful studied her for a long moment, then turned back to the viewport. "We shall see. Set course for the Kelmar outpost, maximum speed." As the massive warship altered course, Raxful gestured for Maya to join him at a tactical display. "You claim to value observation. Observe this, how the Draxian Empire responds to challenges to its authority." The Kelmar outpost was in chaos when they arrived. A mining colony built into the side of a mineral-rich asteroid, it showed signs of recent weapons fire. Several smaller structures had been reduced to debris, and emergency force fields flickered around breached sections. "Life signs," Raxful demanded. "Scattered throughout the main complex," reported a tactical officer. "Approximately 60 Vexnar survivors." "And the attackers?" "No vessels detected in the vicinity, Commander. They appear to have fled." Raxful's posture stiffened, "Or are lying in wait. Deploy security teams to secure the outpost. Full combat protocols." Maya watched as preparations were made for the ground mission. The Draxian soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, checking weapons and armor with methodical precision. "I want to go with them," she said suddenly. Raxful turned to her, mandibles flaring in what she had learned was an expression of surprise. "You are valuable research material. I would not risk you unnecessarily. I'm also a trained scientist with emergency medical knowledge," Maya countered. "And I suspect you're curious how I'll react in a combat situation." The Draxian commander's compound eyes fixed on her for a long moment. "Very well. But you will remain with my personal guard at all times." 20 minutes later, Maya found herself in a Draxian shuttle descending toward the damaged outpost. She had been provided with an environmental suit calibrated for human physiology, protection against both vacuum and potential biological incompatibilities. Beside her sat Raxful himself, his massive frame encased in ornate battle armor that enhanced his already imposing presence. His 4 arms each carried different weapons, a plasma rifle, an energy blade, and 2 smaller sidearms. The Vexnar are a physically frail species, he explained as the shuttle approached. But their minds are sharp, and their sensory capabilities unmatched. They detected valuable mineral deposits that our scanners missed. So they're valuable to you, Maya noted, which makes them targets for your enemies. Raxfol's mandibles clicked. All valuable things attract predators. It is the way of the universe. The shuttle docked with a sealed airlock on the outpost's undamaged section. As the doors opened, Maya was struck by the acrid smell that penetrated even her suit's filtration system. Burning electronics and something alien she couldn't identify. The security team moved forward in formation, weapons ready. Maya stayed close to Raxtol as they advanced into the outpost's main corridor. The lighting was minimal, emergency systems casting everything in a dim red glow. They encountered the first Vexnar around a corner, slender, gray-skinned beings with large, multifaceted eyes and 4 spindly arms. They cowered as the Draxian soldiers approached, their bodies trembling visibly. It is the fear response, Raxfol explained quietly to Maya. Even among allied species, it cannot be entirely suppressed. One Vexnar stepped forward, clearly forcing itself to approach despite its biology's protests. Commander Raxfol, it said, its voice high and melodic through the translator. Thank the stars you've come. Report, Overseer Tixfal, Raxfol ordered. They came without warning. 3 vessels, configuration unknown. They disabled our communications array first, then targeted our defense systems. The Vexinar's large eyes blinked rapidly. They took our latest mineral shipment and several of our people. Slavers, one of the Draxian officers hissed. Raxfol's posture shifted, his secondary arms flexing in what Maya interpreted as anger. Did you recognize their species? No, Commander. They wore full environmental suits, but their movements were unusual, more fluid than any species I've encountered. Maya noticed a subtle change in the atmosphere, the Draxian soldiers exchanging glances, their mandibles clicking in what might have been concern. The Slith, Raxfol said, the word sounding like a curse even through the translator. They've grown bold if they dare raid an Imperial outpost. He turned to his second-in-command. Secure the facility. Gather all survivors in the central chamber. I want damage reports and survivor accounts. As the team moved deeper into the outpost, Maya kept pace with Raxfol. The Slith? She asked quietly. An aquatic species from the outer systems, he explained, his voice low. Adaptable, intelligent, and utterly without honor. They raid rather than build, steal rather than create. And they don't fear you, Maya observed. Raxfol's compound eyes fixed on her. Their biology is different. Their fear response is muted compared to most species. Not absent, as with humans, but reduced enough to make them dangerous opponents. They reached the central chamber, a large dome with equipment consoles arranged around a central holographic projector. More Vexnar huddled in groups, their slender bodies trembling less as they recognized the Draxian uniforms. Raxfol moved to the central console, interfacing directly with the outpost's systems. Maya watched as he navigated through damage reports and security footage with practiced efficiency. There, he said suddenly, freezing an image from the outpost's external cameras. Maya stepped closer to see a sleek vessel with an unusual tapered design, like a teardrop stretched lengthwise. Its hull gleamed with a pearlescent quality that seemed to shift colors as it moved. A Slith Raider, Raxfol confirmed. Smaller than their typical vessels, which explains why they targeted a remote outpost rather than risking a direct confrontation with our fleet. As they studied the footage, Maya noticed something odd about the attackers' movements as they boarded the outpost, a fluidity that seemed almost like swimming through air. Their suits, she said suddenly. They're filled with liquid, aren't they? Hull turned to her, mandibles clicking in what might have been approval. Correct. The Slith cannot survive long in air environments. Their suits contain their native fluid, allowing them to operate in our spaces, which makes them vulnerable, Maya reasoned. Breach the suit, and they lose their environment. Indeed, it is their weakness, just as our reliance on the fear response may be ours. Raxful's voice lowered. At least against certain, unusual species. Before Maya could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. A Draxian officer rushed into the chamber, his posture rigid with urgency. "Commander, 3 Slith vessels have dropped out of FTL. They're heading directly for us." Raxful immediately activated his comlink. All forces, battle stations. This was not a raid. It was a trap. Maya watched as the tactical display showed 3 enemy vessels approaching the asteroid. They were larger than the raider they'd seen in the footage, their configurations clearly designed for combat rather than stealth. They knew an Imperial vessel would respond to the distress call. Raxful growled. They wanted to draw out a high-value target. Like the inevitable conquest, Maya realized. Indeed. And its commander. Raxful turned to his officers. Evacuation protocol. Get the Vexnar to the emergency shelters deeper in the asteroid. Their sensory abilities may prove useful if the Slith attempt to board. As the chamber erupted into organized chaos, Raxful pulled Maya aside. "You should join the Vexnar in the shelters." "I can be more useful here," she countered. "I've handled crisis situations before." Raxful studied her for a moment, then nodded sharply. "Stay close." They moved quickly through the corridors toward the command center, where Raxful could coordinate with his warship. As they turned a corner, Maya noticed something unusual, a shimmer in the air near a maintenance hatch. "Commander," she called out, but it was too late. 3 figures emerged from seeming invisibility. Tall, sleek forms in fluid-filled environmental suits. Their movements were unnervingly smooth as they raised weapon-like appendages toward Raxful. The Draxian commander reacted with impressive speed, 2 of his arms bringing up energy weapons while the others drew his blade. He fired rapidly, hitting one of the attackers square in the chest. The suit ruptured, fluid spraying outward as the creature inside writhed in agony. But the other 2 were already firing. Energy bolts struck the wall behind them as Maya dove for cover. Raxful took a glancing hit to his armored shoulder, the impact spinning him half around. Without thinking, Maya grabbed a fallen Draxian weapon from the floor. The design was alien, but the principle seemed clear enough. Point and trigger. She aimed at the nearest attacker and fired. The weapon discharged with more force than she'd anticipated, nearly jerking from her hands. But her aim was true. The energy bolt struck the Slith assassin's helmet, cracking the transparent material. Fluid began to seep from the breach, and the creature's movements immediately became erratic. Raxful recovered his balance and dispatched the compromised attacker with a precise shot. The 3rd Slith, seeing its companions fallen, attempted to retreat, activating some kind of cloaking technology. But Raxful's compound eyes tracked the subtle distortion in the air, and his final shot brought down the assassin. In the sudden silence, Maya found herself still holding the weapon, her heart racing, but her hand steady. Raxful approached her slowly, his compound eyes fixed on her face. "You saved my life," he stated simply. Maya lowered the weapon. "Yes." "Why?" "I am your captor. My death might have provided an opportunity for escape." She considered this, then answered honestly. "Because that's not who I am. Not who humans are. At our best, we protect life when we can, even at risk to ourselves." Raxful was silent for a long moment, then retrieved the weapon from her hands with surprising gentleness. "Come. We must reach the command center. This attack is far from over." 3 days later, Maya stood again on the bridge of the inevitable conquest, but the atmosphere had changed dramatically. The Draxian crew no longer watched her with suspicion, but with a new emotion she couldn't quite identify. Something between respect and curiosity. The Slith attack had been repelled. Raxful's warship had destroyed 2 of the enemy vessels, while the third had retreated into FTL after taking heavy damage. The outpost was secure, its survivors safe, though reconstruction would take time. "You requested my presence, Commander," Maya asked as she approached Raxful's position at the viewport. The Draxian turned to face her fully, his posture formal but less imposing than before. "I have been reevaluating certain assumptions about interspecies relations." Maya waited, sensing there was more. "Your actions during the Slith ambush were unexpected. Not merely your immunity to our biological advantages, but your willingness to risk yourself for one who had imprisoned you." Raxful's mandibles moved in what she had learned was a gesture of contemplation. "It suggests possibilities I had not considered. Such as that perhaps the Draxian Empire's approach to other species has been limited by our own evolutionary biases. We assume all relationships must be based on dominance and submission because that is how we perceive the universe." Maya nodded slowly. "While humans have learned that cooperation often achieves more than competition." "Indeed." Raxful gestured to a star chart displayed before them. "Your vessel's navigation data has been analyzed. We have located your home system." Maya's heart raced with sudden hope. "Earth? Yes, it lies beyond our current territorial boundaries, in a sector we had not yet explored." Raxful's compound eyes fixed on her. "I have decided to escort you there personally." "As a prisoner?" Maya asked cautiously. "As an envoy." Raxful's mandibles spread in what she now recognized as the Draxian equivalent of a smile. "Your species' unique characteristics suggest you would make poor subjects, but potentially valuable allies." The implication wasn't lost on Maya. The Draxian Empire had apparently never encountered a species it couldn't intimidate, until now. Rather than viewing this as a threat, Raxful was seeing an opportunity. "What did you mean before," she asked, "about our evolutionary biases?" Raxful turned back to the viewport, his forearms clasped behind his back. "For millennia, the Draxian Empire has expanded through conquest and subjugation. It was efficient. Our natural biological advantage made resistance futile for most species." He paused, watching as a distant star flared briefly. "But efficient is not always optimal in the long term. Species that join us through fear provide labor and resources, but rarely innovation or true loyalty. They obey, but they do not contribute their full potential. While humans, it seems, can face us without flinching, can think clearly even while afraid, can choose to protect a potential enemy because of principles rather than biological imperatives." Raxful turned back to her. "These qualities intrigue me. What might our civilizations achieve together if we approached each other as equals rather than as predator and prey?" Maya considered the implications carefully. First contact had not gone as any human might have imagined, being captured by an alien empire built on biological intimidation. Yet somehow it was evolving into something that might benefit both species. "It would require significant changes in how the Draxian Empire operates," she pointed out. "Change is the one constant in the universe," Raxful replied. "Those who cannot adapt eventually perish. The Slith attack demonstrated a growing boldness among our enemies. Perhaps it is time for new strategies, new alliances." He extended one of his primary hands toward her, a gesture Maya recognized as profoundly significant coming from a Draxian. "Your kind does not fear me. Perhaps that is exactly what the Empire needs." Maya took his hand, the chitinous surface cool against her skin. "And perhaps what humanity needs is a guide to the wider galaxy, even one with mandibles and 4 arms." Raxful's mandibles spread in what was unmistakably amusement. "Set course for Earth," he ordered the navigation officer. "Let us see what the fearless humans make of the Draxian Empire." As the massive warship altered course, beginning its journey toward her home, Maya considered the strange twist of fate that had brought her here. What had begun as a scientific survey mission had transformed into first contact with a galactic power, one that had initially seen humans as potential subjects, but now approached as potential allies. All because humans, alone among the stars, could look upon the most feared predators in the galaxy and not tremble. It wasn't that humans felt no fear. It was that they had learned, over countless generations of struggle and survival, to master it, to think and act despite it. What had once been a survival trait on the savannas of ancient Earth had now become humanity's greatest diplomatic asset among the stars. Lieutenant Meyer Reeves smiled as the stars streaked past the viewport. Earth was about to meet its first alien civilization, and the galaxy would never be the same.